Okay, we took a break, an AC air conditioning break, and we're regrouping a little bit. And so I thought we'd talk a little bit more about your church community and specifically about the LGBT influence there, or any sort of activism in the Episcopal Church, etc. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And can we go back to when I was in the Lutheran Church?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I was raised in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, which is the very conservative branch. But I grew up in it before, this is, as another pastor said, before it went batshit crazy.
Is that PCUSA? Oh no, sorry, no. That's Presbyterian.
yeah, that's Presbyterian. But
what is the conservative one in Lutheran? I know
it's LCMS, but the progressive one is ELCA.
ELCA, okay.
Yeah, that's what I am now. But
I get mixed up.
No, there's
acronyms.
Exactly, there's a lot. So it was the LC. Well. It was the LCMS, and if you ever get a chance, look up Seminex, Seminex, when the two Lutheran branches.
I'll link to these things.
Yeah. But that's when everything, the rift, but the cool stuff.
I love that though.
Yeah.
I mean, some people complain that there's these rifts, but they need to happen.
Yeah, I heard someone joke that it was a gay man said that he said us queens are ripping these churches apart, and I said that is excellent.
Yeah,
excellent. It's got to happen.
It has to happen.
Yes,
it has to happen elsewhere too.
Yeah,
like when people are sort of preaching, oh, we just need to be nice and be peaceful. Mm-hmm. Well, when you're being nice and peaceful, that means that you're accepting the status quo.
Yeah.
And sometimes the status quo is harmful.
Yeah. You've got to be loud and intentional about stuff.
Exactly.
So, I was raised LCMS, but when I started to medically transition, and I knew it would not be, I could not be transgender in the LCMS.
Yeah. Had they told you that, or
no? It was very obvious in all the. I mean, because in the doctrine and the theology of the church, it's very much like anti-LGBT.
Okay.
Like,
do they specifically name it though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's very, very clear in every aspect.
Okay.
We do not support this, and it's not like these churches where it's kind of subtle and hidden. It's they come out and say, okay, and good for them that at least they're.
At least it's a warning. At least it's a warning.
It is a warning that if you are gay or transgender or whatever, then you know not to join because
it's not a safe place.
Yeah, it's not a safe place. Can they tell you that?
Y'all have a church that's not a safe place.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, I chose to leave, but growing up, I had been taught that the ELCA was the worst church in existence.
Oh, no.
It was Satan incarnate. And the reason being is because they, as Lutherans, were so close to the truth and threw it away. Okay. And so in the LCMS, you had the worst of the worst were non-Christians. And then the next level was Roman Catholics, and then under them was ELCA, was like the third worst.
All right.
And so anyway, but so when I left,
so much bitterness.
Oh my God, they define themselves by what they are not.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Like, who are we? Well, we are not that. That's by default then here. But
what a loving community.
But the thing is, had I not been transgender, I would still be a member of that.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of comfort in it. And it's a good, aside from that, it's a lovely organization.
And also you grew up in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when I knew I wanted to, I'm just being Christian is so important to me. I was never going to leave my faith, but where do I go? Because all I knew was this one thing. And I looked and I said, well, the other Lutheran option is ELCA. I can't join them because I'd been indoctrinated to believe they were evil.
Sure.
So
it's funny because I've been to ELCA churches and I've worked for Lutherans and they're so mild.
Yeah. Well, and so what happened was there was this church called St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, and
Yeah.
it had these. I remember driving by it almost every day when I was in college and thinking how ugly it looked. The stained glass. I don't know. I didn't like it.
Okay.
And it was like pre-transition, and I was still in the LCMS, and we had been taught that every other church was wrong and we were the only true church.
Oh, no.
And in my mind, I would see this Episcopal
Anyone
church.
saying that is always wrong.
Oh, there's like 800 true churches.
Right. Or true transsexuals. Or...
Yeah.
It's like, oh, stop
18,000 variations
Stop
of them.
Stop it.
But what happened was that they had this banner that said the Episcopal Church welcomes you, which is an Episcopal thing. That's their motto.
Right.
And so I remember I'd drive past it and I'd see the ugly stained glass, and which I did later.
Was it just too modern or something? Or...
No, I think it was just I didn't like them because they were the other, and so I had to. I mean, it's actually pretty, but I
had to make up a reason.
Make up a reason to dislike them.
Okay.
And so, but
their
when
stained glass is not pretty enough.
Yeah, so I can't be their friend. So when I realized that I had to leave the LCMS, and I was not going to argue. I wasn't going to sit there and say, "Oh no, you must accept me." I was like, "I'm not going to be a pioneer in this. I'm willingly going to leave.
Yeah.
You know, not going to fight."
That's why, if you know activists who do that, they are really doing some heavy lifting. They're doing some hard work. Yeah, because it's.
And I can't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
It's good that you knew your limits.
Yeah,
I'm
not going to do that.
But people who do that, let's all, give them some thanks out there.
Yeah.
Wow, they're doing some hard work.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that led the Seminex movement in the Lutheran Church, and the ones that led the change in the Episcopal Church. Yeah. I mean, I love it. I love that they did this for us.
It's slow and hard work.
Yeah, and I just know I couldn't do it. So I can't be that person. Yeah. But anyway, so I joined the Episcopal Church and realized that I could be a gay transgender Christian in a community with other gay and transgender people. Awesome. That it just... At St. Stephen's here in Houston, it was like, at the time, was the gay Episcopal Church. If you were gay and you were a liturgical Christian, you knew that was the church you were going to go to, because they were very, very visible.
Great.
And and so my faith really grew there. And
here in Houston was the first time I ever encountered gay Christians, too.
Really?
Yeah, there was a gay Quaker... I don't know what you would call it, but the Quaker meeting house that I saw here,
Live Oaks, Friends.
I don't remember, but I actually did go to it.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like 40 years ago. So
okay.
I mean,
so
it was
different,
a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But they were super welcoming. Like they had a banner and everything, and it was the first time I had seen that, and it was one of the few safe places besides like going out to bars that you could go to, as like a younger person. Yeah.
Well, that's like Bering United Church of Christ here in Houston. Used to be Bering United Methodist Church until
I love UCC, by the way.
Yeah. Well, Bering was even when they, as being part of the Methodist denomination, was not allowed to do gay things and it wasn't allowed to have gay people. Right. They reached out to the individuals with AIDS during the height of the AIDS crisis and made a name for themselves in, like, at the time, well, and even now to a lesser extent, AIDS is synonymous with being gay or was, and so Bering was the gay church, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
I was in Houston at that time in the late
really really?
80s. Yeah.
Yeah. And the pastor is still there, and she said she would not do any weddings in the church until they could have same-sex weddings. And so that was their big thing. We don't do weddings.
Wow.
She would do a wedding outside the building, but never inside.
Wow.
And so when they voted to become UCC, because of all that foolishness with the Methodist Church, they voted to become UCC, and their first wedding that she did there was like, wow, that was so cool. And I think it may have been a straight wedding too, you know.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about kind of the history of the LGBT welcoming or affirming parts of different churches that you've been involved in. How about specifically the one that you're involved in now? That's Trinity?
Yeah,
okay.
Trinity Episcopal.
All right.
So there, we've always had LGBT people at Trinity, but it was the unspoken kind of thing that the church was welcoming, but we just didn't really talk about it. Talk about being
and nothing
opening,
like a public
open.
face, like
there was no
like
public
the
face.
Quaker meeting house they actually have a banner.
No banner.
No. Okay.
No nothing. And it was if you were a member, you knew that they were welcoming and affirming, and that but you had to already know someone, or you had to already know. They just didn't advertise
it's like
it.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. And it wasn't because of not wanting to be open about being open. It's just nobody ever thought about it. No one, it just never came up.
It's so hard though, as somebody who is queer or trans, to find these things. So find welcoming spaces though. So it's really important to be really blatant and out there about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because maybe somebody's coming to a new town. They don't know anybody. You know?
Yeah, and as being being a transgender person, or anyone in a community that's like different, if you are the other, and you want to see that your community is being very intentional about welcoming or making it known that they include people who are different. For me, when I started saying something and said, well, hey, we are an inclusive community, can we just say that somewhere? Let's just tell people,
even just put a little rainbow something,
just stick a rainbow somewhere, just as the code that we're cool, that there was a part of me felt like I was just speaking up, but that I would be just dismissed, like,
did you think you were causing trouble?
Yeah, exactly. That I was causing trouble by saying, hey, let's be intentional about being welcoming. Let's actually talk about gay stuff. Let's make it known. And there was a little bit of pushback on that.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
there was.
Why?
That everyone knows that we are inclusive. Why do we need to say it?
Okay.
And I said, well, we need to say it because not everybody will know. In fact, I didn't know, and I was a member of the community until,
And also, too, like, if you're not, like, out there saying that you are supportive of people who are queer and trans, people think it's the default, which is not being supportive.
Yeah. They like you said, they then it's being a non-inclusive community. That's the default.
Yeah.
But I really was advocating that we needed to make it known that we were inclusive, and that's one of the things that had for a while had turned me off to Trinity for a while, is that we were not being intentional about
and you got
inclusion.
That little bit of pushback.
And it wasn't coming from a bad place. Like, it wasn't people saying, oh, well, we're pushing back because we don't like you. It's just, again, it was the pushback that, well, we like you, why do we have to say we like you? So
still, there's something not so welcoming in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
And it's hard to look at somebody that loves you and supports you, and then wonder what the deal is,
Yeah.
why we are being secretive.
It's almost like those old discussions about being tolerant versus being welcoming.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't want to be tolerated.
Yeah.
You know, because there's nothing wrong with me. You know,
Yeah.
I want to be welcomed. I want to be an equal part. I want to be a peer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I was really, really pleased and surprised and pleased one day when I started going to Trinity again regularly when we had our foster child come. And I opened up the church bulletin, and there it was in a big old rainbow, and it said, "We are a proud affirming, or a proud LGBTQIA plus affirming Episcopal congregation."
Great.
And it was like
Great.
right in your face.
Great.
And they had it. It was anywhere you go in the church, that branding there, it's everywhere.
Right.
So now everyone knows.
It's so important because, I mean, look at who is influencing the politicians that are coming up with all these anti-LGBT, especially trans, but anti-LGBT bills and eventually laws. Sometimes when they pass them, it's the church.
Yeah,
You know,
it's the church.
as a whole, right? So if you're a church, you know, if you're a denomination within that, you really have to push back on it because it's part of your heritage that's doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's interesting sometimes when I tell people that I am a transgender person who is Christian,
Right.
And they'll look and say, "Well, you don't act Christian."
Oh, yeah.
And because
Or maybe they think something bad of you.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That by default, you know, Christian has become synonymous with bad.
Right.
You know,
Right.
with intolerance and
So
things like that.
it's not only is it important to welcome and make LGBT people equal parts of a church, but also because this sort of social conservative movement is misconstruing what Christianity really is, taking all the love out, taking all the acceptance and non-judgment out. They're like going the opposite direction. It's really incumbent upon like leftist leaning or welcoming churches to push back on that because it's not Christianity.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm just gonna say that it is not Christianity.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, if Christ was here, would he be hanging out with us? I think so. I think so. Versus, you know, some people were spewing hate. I don't think so.
Yeah,
He would, you know,
exactly.
Yeah, those are the hypocrites.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that.
Sorry, that's my little preaching there. But
No,
there you
it's true. It's true. You say it way better than I ever could.
Well, I'm saying it with a little bit of anger. So, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we had off camera talked about integrity. Okay.
And what is integrity besides the concept?
Okay. So in integrity, now integrity started out, of course, before I think they go back to before when I was born. And my husband can speak way more about it.
And it's a group within...
It's a group. Yes, it is it no longer exists, but it was the group within the Episcopal Church that was for LGBT rights, because their goal was full inclusion and participation, same-sex marriage, visibility, ordination of non-celibate gay individuals, ordination of transgender individuals, and so that was what they stood for, and that was the mission of integrity. And so it had a really good, great visibility. Integrity had a lot of standing and respect in the gay Christian world. You know, I don't know necessarily.
It's okay.
But I know when I joined the Episcopal Church, it was a huge thing.
Okay.
It was a huge
so it was
thing.
very active.
Oh yeah, very active. I was attended integrity meetings, and
When was this around?
That would have been maybe about 2006, 2007.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was really cool. You had this group that would get together and talk about, well, how are we going to advocate for LGBTQ? Actually the QIA hadn't been added at that point. Sure. But for the LGBT community, what are we going to do to advocate for our rights? What
Are you talking within the church? Within
the church? Okay. Yeah.
How about elsewhere? Like witnessing as I am a Christian at whatever kind of event.
Well, I know that in the Pride Parade and the different events and stuff, we were very visible.
Okay.
And so we would have one of the priests that was not in charge, but he was the integrity priest, would go out and publicly say mass, and at the Pride Parade, so that to be visible as we are gay Christians or LGBT Christians, and all are welcome here. And I remember it was really interesting though that I found most of the I want to say kind of pushback here was coming from the LGBT community saying, well, why are you Christian? Like it was the conflict, I guess, or it was more like LGBT people had a bigger problem with us being a visibly Christian than Christianity had a problem with us being LGBT.
Really?
Yeah, it was very strange. I remember that
even though you left the church that you grew up in.
Yeah. But that I will encounter that where I will encounter LGBT individuals who just look, well, how can you be, why do y'all exist, or what is this for, y'all, and that's because
it speaks to the trauma.
Exactly. That these are mostly people that have been traumatized by the institution of the church. Yeah. So, and I can understand that.
Yeah. And not everybody has to be a believer either. I mean, that's not what I'm saying at all, and I doubt that's what you're saying either.
Yeah, exactly.
It has nothing to do with that.
No.
But yeah, the Christian church has done a lot of bad things.
Yeah, it's done a lot of damage.
It makes sense that people would, would give you the stink eye a little bit.
Yeah, and I can 100% empathize with that. And so, but just kind of getting back to the Pride Parade, I remember when I went to it was the first public mass, I guess you could say, that I had gone to, and seeing the priest there and surrounded by rainbow flags and all these different kinds of people, and here we were, and we're still fighting for our rights within this organization, because even though we were a big group and this was a national thing, we still had to convince some of the decision makers that, hey, make us fully include us. And so it felt kind of weird in a way to be part of a church that was a denomination where I wasn't fully included yet, but I knew I was going to be. But
so you felt like this group was doing enough work so it eventually would happen.
Yeah, because I mean, we were already going that way. We knew that it just took a few more conversations and conventions.
And this is national too, I guess.
Integrity,
great.
And so we knew that eventually we were going to achieve our goal. We knew it, and integrity, now it's fortunate and unfortunate, I guess, that if it even exists, which I don't think it does, it's a shadow of itself, because integrity had a mission and a goal, and it achieved that goal. So there's no more now. It's just not there. It doesn't need to be there.
Did the group decide at some point did they vote on it to disband? Or
I don't think so. From what I understand, and this is just I can only speak to what I know from
Sure.
like Texas, at least,
yeah.
is that now because the people that made up that community are now included and accepted in the wider community, they don't the people I know, we don't need that little community to sit and try to fight for rights that we already have. So
But those rights
Yeah.
are only within a certain small
yeah.
movement.
Yeah.
Whereas what we've seen in the last few years, so we've seen LGBT rights increase, right, and specifically trans, because here we are with a couple trans people, but then we're going backwards.
Yeah.
We're definitely regressing. So one of my things that I am very frustrated with is that I don't see the religious sort of left or welcoming or more progressive religious people out there doing very much, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so quiet.
Yeah, and that's one of that definitely is a frustration.
Yeah.
I see that too. I can feel that too.
And there's a lot of privilege in being quiet.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody, people tend, if you're attending church regularly and you're tithing and that sort of thing, you're probably pretty stable, a stable person. And, there's other people in our communities that are a little bit less stable, and they're being impacted first by all of this that's going on. Healthcare is being taken away, et cetera. And it worries me that people think that they can hide out.
Yeah.
Even trans people hiding out. And if we look at this country, who has been doing really good work and who has actually brought together people to make great social change? It's religious leaders, right? Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
Malcolm X, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We can go down the list, right?
Yeah.
And that's not happening right now, even though it's so needed.
Yeah. That's and I would I've thought about these things too, and I don't even it's frustrating because I'm not a religious leader.
Yeah.
And even if I was, I don't know that I could lead something like that. And
but we do have religious leaders. They're just very quiet right now.
Yeah. They'll do things like give a great sermon or write a great book or even sometimes be on a podcast or whatever, but not and I'm sure there are some who are very visible. I'm not at the moment, well, for the past few years haven't really been watching the news a lot. So because every time I turn it on, I'd get upset. So, as far as people, religious leaders in our country who are protesting against anti-LGBT legislation, I don't see anyone.
I don't
but
I see the right doing a whole bunch of stuff. The religious right. I mean, our whole lives, they've been kind of doing that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they're very organized and they're willing to reach out. And if there's some denominational differences, who cares? We have this goal of control and, social conservatism that is strangely mixing with Christianity.
Yeah.
I don't see the other side coming up.
Yeah, and
countering that.
I get upset over it, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that's what the sense of frustration really is, that I get frustrated, but I don't know, I'm upset by it, but I just don't know what to do.
Yeah. I worry about all this quietism because, we have 350 bills in legislatures right now that are anti-LGBT and especially anti-trans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like this weird obsession with transgender people.
Yeah.
So,
and that's just in 2 months.
Yeah.
That's just in a couple months. Yeah.
Yeah. In Tennessee, with drag queens or drag performers. What did they call it? Burlesque performers now, something weird.
Yeah, they're strangely sexualizing all that stuff, and it's not. It's performance. It's dancing.
Yeah. So it's just very, very strange. So
yeah. And I don't mean to put it all on you.
No, I understand. Yeah.
As a religious person, it's just a broad frustration that I really have, and I want to encourage you people that are very religious and are religious leaders. You got to get out there. You can't just write your book. You can't just, get your extra degree that you're going for or whatever.
Yeah, or just say, if you know us, and then our church is inclusive. You have to do, like what Trinity did, which was make a bold statement. And
it's almost like people are waiting for things to get worse.
Yeah.
Things are going to get worse if you wait.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't wait. You have to do something right now.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, I know so many trans people who are contemplating moving, right? Some can't.
No.
Economically, because their families are in their
and
responsibilities.
Some don't want, like, I was here first, and then now these people show up and want to, mess it all up. Well, no, my family's been here. I'm like 6th generation Texan. I'm not leaving.
I know. I talked to a Latino trans man last night, and he was like, no, I was here before the border was here. Well, I'm not moving, and and some people can't do it economically. I mean, it's really a justice issue to just wait and see. No, don't wait and see. Go to every meeting that you can, proclaim yourself as a Christian and your real values, and say what the harm that's being done to people who are adjacent to you. You may not be trans, you may not be in the LGBT community, but every human out there is in your community. And if you let harm go, you're just you're letting the bad work to be done.
Yeah.
You're letting it go. Anyway, there's my little sermon. Sorry, I'm going off. Yeah, I just worry. I worry about all this quietude.
Yeah. And, and that does spill over into my experience as a transgender person, being a white person, a white man who passes very easily as male and financially stable. I've got, good job, great insurance, nice house and all that good stuff. It's easy for me to be quiet.
Right.
And even though I see injustices, and just fall into complacency without meaning to do it. And it doesn't affect me, so I'm not going to think about it. And that's something that I have to be more intentional about that, and why
because you do have the resources to be able to do something. Whereas other people, they're just surviving. Maybe they're working a couple jobs, maybe they can't even get a fucking job. Because of discrimination.
And so it's and that's one of the things that makes it so cool about with Team On now, is because in our leadership, one of the people who joined the leadership team or who I was referencing earlier, who came in and from Chicago. And came in and started asking questions and saying, well, what are we going to do here? What are we doing? Why have we not? What's going on?
Specifically?
Like the injustices with people of color, like transgender people of color, and specific issues that is faced by that are faced by this community. So bringing up things that I didn't even know, injustices that I didn't even know existed.
And Houston is a very diverse city.
And and it's interesting though, if you go to any transgender meeting, like the majority of it is white people, and
that's also been my experience. Over the last 20-something years.
Yeah, and why is that? Is it and now we're fortunate in Houston that we do have Saving Our Sisters United and Saving Our Brothers, which is the transmasculine sibling to that, and that they both are focused on meeting the needs of transgender people of color. And are
they kind of adjacent to your organization?
No, they're independent.
Just separate.
Yeah, they started out in the incubator program. At least I know Saving Our Sisters did, and have moved beyond that to be their own thing now. And so,
and is that the 501c3?
Yeah, the incubator program. The 501c3. Through the Montrose Center.
That's great.
So
money does help.
Oh, money does help.
When people say money doesn't help, they're full of crap.
Yeah,
money's everything. In a
exactly.
System.
You've gotta have money to get programs started. Yep. People aren't going to work for free. Right. So or even with Tima's top surgery fund, well, you got to have money to help pay for top surgery.
Yep.
So, but anyway, as far as how this relates to Tima, I've seen that when there's this effort to be more intentional, you get a wider variety of members. Right. And, because...
Just like earlier in your history.
Were,
with the gender expression. Opening that up.
Mm-hmm. Right. That when we introduce these ideas of you can be transmasculine in so many different ways, well, then suddenly we get a lot of members. And... just by opening the group up and being more intentional about, advertising, so to speak. And so I see that now with Tima, with the where we're at with our leadership. And that's just really cool to think that, what can we do? And then there's one of the things that always made me afraid of really saying things, or being, is I didn't want to have that white savior mentality or get that, that appearance that, the poor, person that's struggling, and I'm going to come in and save it with my money and influence and everything. And even though I see that having those resources are helpful, well, no, I didn't know how. I was not comfortable. I didn't know how to bring these things up. And so now by having somebody who can come in and say, hey, let's what's up,
sharing the leadership,
sharing the
power,
sharing the power, sharing the leadership. And it just, now things can happen,
right.
So that's really cool.
That's really tricky about the white savior thing.
I'm
glad you're thinking about that.
And it almost, then counter to that, I thought, well, am I using that as a cop out for not helping?
Right.
But then so it was very, I was very conflicted. I didn't know how to think about it. And unfortunately, with our
and people who are making donations, you don't ever have to think about that. Just give your money.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Don't ever worry that you're being a savior. Just give your money.
Just give your money. Yes. So,
that's the best thing you can do is give money.
Yes. Yeah, that is true. Because we will use it properly.
Yes, that's right.
So
that's right. And it sounds like you're becoming, maybe a little bit more trustworthy, just like the churches that are doing the work are becoming more trustworthy, by showing that and acting on this. That's great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm losing it now. I've had so many interviews. I'm finding I'm having a loss for words, which is unusual for me. But speaking of that, is there anything else that we should talk about? Anything else you want to touch on?
I think that we've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I do have to give a shout out to our website.
Okay.
If you want to know more about us, it's transmasculinehouston.org. transmasculinehouston.com.
Yeah.
So again, one word, transmasculinehouston.com. And that will link you to our Facebook, our Discord, our I've been running something, it's called Houston Transgender Meetup. It's just on the Meetup app. And all it serves is as a one-stop calendar of everything transgender related in Houston.
Well, it sounds like you're just reaching out to all the social media platforms to put something out there.
Yeah. You know, and it's I love seeing the community come together like this. Like when we have events and things like that, and I see just all these different transmasculine people are all together, and that just, you know, it just makes me so happy that, you know, just seeing this community grow and people come together. It's just really cool.
Yeah. And it's good at any time, but I feel like right now it's so needed. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, besides the support aspect, which you said that you increased after COVID, because there was a need that was expressed. What kind of social events are you having? Having. What kind of social events are you having?
Yeah, so we like have a variety.
Yeah, I know. Barbecues.
Well, we have a variety of things. That one of our favorites is going to the beach.
Okay.
You know, because being
like Galveston or something.
Yeah, to Galveston.
That's kind of a hike, though. I mean,
but when you carpool, I mean, you're not, 20 cars going, but that's a really popular one, especially if you have people who have not had top surgery and they want to go swim and have fun, you know, then you feel more empowered to, like if people are wearing compression garments or whatever, or they have surgical scars, when you see people who look like you having fun, and then, you can feel more empowered to do that.
Right.
And so that's one. We do, just meeting at restaurants, meeting at bars, or just if there's events in the community, just going as a group, and it's a lot of fun,
Yeah, that's important. I've certainly been to events before where it's like, okay, like pansexual events or something like that, where it's mostly straight people and they're like just a couple of queer people, and it's like,
what is this? You know? And so us being able to, just having these little social events like this, and it's just so much fun, and they're so easy to plan. I would suggest, any trans support group that exists, if you, have the means to do it, have somebody function as your social chair, because that's what we have. And
like Julie from Love Boat.
And and then and then you have somebody that oversees this, and it doesn't have to be really complicated. It's for us, we have an event, and whoever shows up, and if you have a big turnout, awesome. You have a small turnout, that's okay too. And and they're very easy to coordinate. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that they're easy to coordinate, because I think that people maybe shy away thinking that it's going to be difficult or something. Yeah,
and Houston does have a group called TGQ, Transgender Queer. It's TGQ Social Houston, or TGQ Houston, and it's once a month. They meet at a restaurant for dinner, and it started out, it was kind of about 20 people, and then now it's huge. It's huge. I kind of laugh. It's like a restaurant takeover.
Wow.
And all it took was one person wanted to see this happen and thought it was a cool idea, called up the restaurant owner and said, we're going to have a big group come. And now every month, this is what it is. And it is, people get so excited about wanting to go and dress up or not dress up, or go somewhere. And it's not hard to organize that social event.
Yeah. It sounds like it would be good for dating as well.
Yeah.
You know who's gonna kind of be there, or you can have like a wingman, or something.
And and now with Tima, though, we have to be careful. We don't want chasers, as we call them. We don't want chasers. So
How do you deal with that?
So
What is a chaser by the way?
A chaser is a person, a cisgender person who really is sexually attracted to transgender people on a fetishistic level.
Dehumanizing.
Yeah, on a dehumanizing, you know. And it's mostly cisgender men who chase after transgender women in this, fetish, sexual way. And in the transmasculine community, it's a lot more rare, but there are some cisgender men and some cisgender women that only want, we've had situations where they tried to crash meetings by
really?
saying, well, like cisgender men, well, I identify as masculine or man or whatever, so that's why we had to be really say, no, this is assigned female at birth. Who don't identify as female. Yeah. So
that's so creepy.
It was definitely we call them creepers or chasers. And so how we address that is for our support group meetings, we are very clear that it is only people assigned female at birth who don't identify as female, and we're very, very clear on this. And I have and it's so uncomfortable, had to ask people to leave meetings, and I hate that, but it's for our safety.
They're there for a reason that has nothing to do with the meeting.
Yeah, and then even we've had a couple of times where people have come who said we had a cisgender gay man came who was not a creeper or a chaser, but he said he wanted to come to the thing to support the transmasculine community. Okay, well, I get that maybe he was, but I pointed out to him, I said, well, in our group description, it says very clearly, this is for people,
And just to bring up something else, other groups, what they do is they have closed meetings that are only for the sort of target group, transmasculine.
That's what,
and then they alternate with a partners and allies, plus trans people.
Yeah, and I was
group.
I was going to get to that. That on occasion we do have. Oh well, that guy that I mentioned when I told him about the perimeters of being at this particular meeting. He was very offended and said that we were excluding him, and in my mind, what I was seeing is, okay, as a man, you by default have access to the whole world, But here
that's a bad reaction.
Well, when he got upset that we were excluding him, and I thought, okay, well, we have this one thing that meets here in our small sliver of life. Let us have our thing,
Also, I mean, there was so much expectation there
that we just be okay with it. Yeah. And but as far as the socials, they are open usually. Almost all of them are open to and we say that that it's for transmasculine people and their friends or partners or family. Right. So it's almost like if you are not transmasculine, you have to be escorted by a transmasculine.
Oh, sure.
Not really, but it's that it's not unless it specifically is indicated. It's not for just if you think transmasc people are cool, then you come to our thing. It's you have to have some inroad to this community. Yeah. Especially if it's we're going to go to something that where we are being very vulnerable in a way. Yeah. And it can be really when you are raised as female and socialized and you are the expected to just everybody I'm gonna cater to everybody's need, and be nice and everything, and to have to stand up to say no this is you cannot be here because it, and then every so often there's that accusation of you're gatekeeping, and I'm like, no, this is not a transmasculine person. They know, and we are a transmasculine group. So it can be very difficult to have to step up and be very, and I do that.
Well, you have to communicate well, as well as assert that.
Assert that, yeah. That's the word I was looking for there, being assertive, because as somebody who is a leader of this group, I have a responsibility to keep the group members safe, and I'm not going to call together a meeting and then make an unsafe situation, because how does that look on me, and why would I want to do that?
Right. So, but you do have meetings occasionally that are open to allies. Is that what you're saying?
If there's and it's very few, that are really conducive to that. But anything where it's sexual health, like STDs or just, for lack of a better term, sexual hygiene in a way. Those are things that matter to the attendee plus their partner. If you have a sexual partner, that these are things that they may like to know about too. And but we wouldn't have it, that we're going to talk about sexuality and now everyone can just show up. No, it's like it's for the person plus if they have a sexual partner.
Other groups that I've been to, it's more like it's the partners, but then also people who are just in the community who are actually allies can show up. So, there's different models.
Well, there are groups like that.
Houston is a really big city, so there's different things that you have to contend with. What I was in was a much smaller community. So you knew actually if somebody was an ally or not.
And now in Houston, there are groups for allies. There's groups for spouses. There's groups for parents, groups for children. So it's not, if you are an ally or a parent or spouse or child of a transgender person, then there is a specific group for you. And you can, most of these are at or through or sponsored by the Montrose Center. You can find them. You just, they're there. So, and that's why with Stag and then Be Free and now Tima, I never, or I don't have a problem with making these closed meetings or community, whatever, that if somebody really, really wants to be an ally, for example, they have to respect boundaries, because that's how, how can you be an ally and force your allyship and horn in on a community that's
just unkind.
It's a weird way of being an ally.
It's not. Whenever I see somebody react that badly, like, I will step back for a second. Maybe they're just reacting, an emotional reaction, that can come up, but if it continues, I'm like, you're not listening. That's not, if you're not listening to somebody, you're not being an ally.
Exactly. It's it's but it's been interesting, like, just this bit of conversation here, thinking back to when Stag got started, that originally we didn't ever anticipate this being an issue. So in the original incarnation of the group, we never made any provision for non-transmasculine people showing up.
Well, trans men in particular were never even thought of. I mean, hidden, stealth. Oftentimes people, just didn't want to be out there, and people just didn't know about us. Trans people didn't even know about us.
It was, when we showed, I remember us showing up to those original HTGA meetings and being like the token, or the whatever, and people saying that, oh, we didn't know. And, it was just kind of always, And
why would you do that?
yeah,
I've heard that a few times.
Oh my God, can I have your boobs?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Oh, I so hate it when people say those things.
They're so pretty.
I feel like it's anti-trans, you know. But it's like anti-trans within the trans community.
Yes, yes. You know, because like, what if I went up to a trans woman who was trying really hard and talking about she is so glad about electrolysis, and I'd say, oh, but your beard is so beautiful.
Yes.
Like, how would she feel? Like, no, that's just what
it's awful.
Like, you know, jerky thing to say.
Yeah.
You know, so but it kind of goes back to that. As you're socialized as a woman, you're supposed to be kind of open to just oh, it's okay. You know, that I remember when I would have trans women, you know, fortunately it was very you know, not common, but when they would say things when I was like the only trans man that they knew, and they would look at me and say, but you're so pretty, why would you want to do this? And I would want to in my mind say, but you're so handsome, why do you want to do that? But you know, but I never would say that, but they sure felt okay saying it to me.
And you know, I keep hoping that sort of thing will kind of go away. Yeah. But unfortunately it doesn't. Like this sort of anti-trans or shameful sort of talk that's within the community.
Internalized transphobia, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know what to call it.
We can put that term on it, but it's like this weird, these weird conversations that happen, and they're still common. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, in this project, I've come across several people who are trans who are generally anti-trans. Yeah, like they only think that this is what trans is, and it's my experience. It's how I've done it. And anybody who says that is completely full of shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't platform those people, and I've told them that I'm not going to. So yeah. That
their way of transitioning is right. But it's true, you know, that I had hoped that, as we move forward and now that we're kind of past the Harry Benjamin standards of care era, that the old school will, you know, that old school thinking will kind of go away. But it is true.
It's
like
resurging.
That,
it's resurging.
Yeah, that you have, if you're trans, this is how you have to be.
Yeah. And, you know, some of those people, I mean, are kind of famous influencers now, and they're combining, they're joining forces with the social conservatives, and you know, it's a really weird time where
it is. It is, you know, when you see this within your own community, it's kind of wow. Yeah. And then I think with myself, how early, you know, there were in my early years, I probably felt that way too, and I have to cringe when I kind of think back to it.
But it was also a different time.
Yeah,
you know? And you and me as well. I mean, maybe we thought a different way at a different time, and that's the beauty of change, right? Is that you can change. Yeah, things don't have to remain static. There's no true way. Yeah. Whenever somebody says something like that, I'm like, okay, I don't think so.
Yeah, the right way.
I'm not going to define somebody else. My job is to define who I am by my actions. Yeah. So yes. Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop. Anyway, thank you so much for talking with me. It sounds like you're doing, you know, a lot of work. In your quiet way, you're doing your own heavy lifting. I guess so. Yeah. I mean, you've been doing it for so long. I had no idea.
When you know, I look back even at my scrapbook and all the I have pictures and things. My archives, you know, and just think, wow, God.
I mean, you've really
going back to 1999.
You've really brought like a community together. It's a different kind of activism. Like sometimes I pride myself. I'm like, oh, I'm an activist. I do all this stuff, but I don't really ever do. I've never really done like community work, like bringing people together. And so I really appreciate people like you who are very stable. You're very stable, so our lives are very different. Who have brought people together in this really gentle way. And you've even done things in your church, you know, and you thought of yourself as a troublemaker. So that's edgy. That's edgy. Yeah. That's edgy for you. Yeah. And I just love that. Love that. Yeah. So I hope you know, you're not boasting about it, but I hope internally you're giving yourself some credit for that. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, and thank you for having me in your home. And, I love coming to people's homes and seeing how they live. And, everything that you do is very consistent. You know, you're caring for a lot of people around you.
Yes.
Yeah. Foster care and your mother-in-law and bringing people into your home. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So anyway, thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, y'all. I have a few more here in Houston. Then I'm off going north, and then I'm going back home to Alaska.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's blizzardy right there.
Oh my God.
I know it's like 80 something here.
I think we would die. Well, I was cold this morning and it was about 75.
Oh yeah.
That's your summer.
I have to constantly be drinking like iced coffees here.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Great.
All right. Thank you.